Yeah, I'm always interested in people who are involved in any super creative process. So for me, I do stand up comedy here in Melbourne, and that's a huge passion of mine. That's like the way you explained food just then is in many ways the way I explain, or at least the way I can approach stand up comedy. And I can imagine in the world of food, there's a lot of bombing, there's a lot of trial, there's a lot of error, there's a lot of good meals, there's a lot of bad meals, and for me, I often go out there and it blows my mind how on one night a particular joke in a particular room can get a particular response, and you take that exact thing to a brand new room the next night, and it can fall absolutely flat. And that constant never being able to completely perfect what it is. You just can't put your finger on something and say, okay, this is the one key ingredient that makes this a good stand-up set. I've seen great stand-up comics bomb, and I've seen terrible stand-up comics kill for whatever reason. And what keeps me coming back to that and just trying to figure it out is just further unpacking whatever it is that triggers a certain response. And the way you spoke about food just then, it sounds I can see how it's a lifelong passion, a lifelong commitment. Because I mean, like the egg meal that you cooked for your daughter this morning sounded unbelievable. And as good as you are, and I don't know, unless you're in that restaurant where you're constantly churning out the exact same meal with the exact same ingredients on a daily basis, I imagine there's quite a lot of variance for someone who's pretty focused on delivering the best meal. There must be a big range of flavors to look out for that is kind of hard to perfect.
Yeah, chefs are always striving. I'll generalize here because I think we all do, but we're always striving for perfection, right? And it's such a it's why a lot of us go a little nuts, you know, because we learn this craft, and it's such a beautiful craft. Like the when you really think about what food represents, you know, it's always been about survival of any species. You know, we need to eat to survive, right? And if we look back to our indigenous or ancient ancestors, food would have been the number one priority out of everything. Always has been, and I believe it always should be. And I very seldom use the word should. But this day and age, we seem to have lost that common sense or that perception of that vital piece of information, which is we used to have food as the food and shelter, no doubt, and love and connection as the top things that we would spend our lives searching for, whether it's developing tools to enable us to hunt better, to enable us to strip that piece of meat or fish, and human ingenuity, how to create fishing nets, for instance, how to catch those fish in the river or the lake, you know, how to create that spear, how to create that bow and arrow, how can we get something that is so vital for us and for our tribe and family and community, and how do we then learn how to make it even more delicious, you know? And I just think it's when you start to travel around the world and see all the different cultures and all the ingenuity again of how they've learnt to create these classic meals, whether you're in Italy, India, Korea, China, Southern America, Africa, the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, wherever it may be, we have learnt to find the local ingredients and blend them together in certain ways to create something that used to just give us sustenance and life into something that is so freaking pleasurable. Like that smile on my daughter on my face this morning. A simple poached egg, you know, with runny yolk, perfectly cooked white, golden toast, little drizzle of olive oil, just the right amount of salt and pepper. And we as a species have created these gastronomic masterpieces You know, whether it be a piece of steak with salt, pepper, and a wedge of lemon on the side, you know, classic Italian dish. Whether it be a complex curry from India that has 20 different spices in the perfect ratios that's been simmered, goat on the bone, goat curry, you know, for hours. Whether it be a noodle dish from Malaysia, and I'll use that as an example. If you go into the street stalls, you know, there'll be a